Okay, hi everybody. My name is Richard.lesperance. I go by the name of my man Richard. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. Today I have the pleasure to have Lauren Cockerell with me. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right.
All good. You did
Great.
it.
Welcome to the podcast, Lauren. Lauren is doing some great work in the PR space, so public relations. So we're going to be talking about that. So looking like before I pressed the record button, I was telling you I was just checking your bio, and you mentioned that you have simple strategic tactics for PR in regards to business growth. So, what do you have under your sleeves for business owners?
Okay.
Some
Heavy
tactics.
hitting right off the bat.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here with you. You mentioned you like my energy, I like yours, so I'm looking forward to a great conversation today. I want to start first by saying simple doesn't necessarily mean easy. So I do want to be clear about that. But I think one thing that we really pride ourselves on is being strategic. And when you think about what you really want to have happen for yourself, for your business, beginning with the end in mind is first what we always begin with. And that's simple, thinking about like what you really want to have happen and not thinking about what other people are doing or what you should want or I want to be on the Wall Street in the Wall Street Journal or something like that. Really thinking about first what you want to have happen with your business, who are you trying to connect with, and where are they. So a lot of times that means thinking in terms of your trade journals. If you're in a specific niche, it's thinking about your local business outlets and so forth. So beginning there, and then what is the story that you have to tell. A lot of times people can confuse PR and marketing, and so like, oh, we're having a sale. I want to tell a reporter that we're having a sale. Well, reporters don't actually care about that. They want to know about the business, about what you're doing in your business, how you're taking care of your people, your customers, your community. So thinking about what the story is that you really have to tell, and why that might matter to the people who are you're trying to connect with and influence. So that's where we begin. That's at a very high level, and I'm happy to drill down if you have specific questions there. But when we think about, we always begin with that strategy, and one of our first phases of work is covering a lot of that information. Who are you as a business? Thinking in terms of what other people will find interesting. It's really hard to read the label from inside the bottle, so that outside help can be supportive sometimes when it's like, no, you're not seeing all the ways that you're really incredible and beautiful and you're doing this work that no one really understands. You get kind of hung up in your day to day. But thinking about what is going to be interesting, a great story for someone else to write about, and then what your audience is going to care about and where are they actually getting their information.
You mentioned before PR and marketing
Hmm.
together.
Hmm.
Do people confuse the two sometimes?
They do. I think most confusion is, what's how are they different? When do I use one versus the other? When's the right time to add PR? Whether you're starting a business or you've been in business for a long time, you always need marketing because you're selling something. And I'd assume if you're in business, you're trying to sell something, whether it's services, ideas, or products. So marketing, as I think about it, is a function of sales. It's a lot easier to measure. It's the campaigns, the content. You're trying to drive action. So that is as marketing. It's a function of sales. PR is often more of a function of leadership, of the vision of the business. So it's about leadership and management. And so a lot of times the things that we're doing in PR are like executive announcements. Who's the new VP of marketing or HR or we're doing crisis communications. I mean, a lot of times we're adding PR to do announce something positive and drive revenue and sales. So they work together. They must work together. We don't want them working in silos, but they do serve different purposes. PR is more on the reputation side. It's your brand existing, what people think about your brand, how does it feel and taste and look to them. Marketing is more, we're trying to drive action here.
What are some myths in regards to PR.
What are some, what was the word? I'm sorry.
Myths.
Myths. Thank you. Um, Well, um, let's see. There's one where all PR is good PR. Now, I would say if you are a celebrity, that might be true. You know, you don't want to just fade away. So having being canceled while uncomfortable might not always be the worst thing because people are talking about you. But it's not a great business strategy. We want you to be more strategic. Let's see. I'm trying to think of another good one that's pretty common. I think that um, you stumped me, Richard. I have to think about this for a second.
No problem.
What do you think are some myths? You tell me.
I don't know, but the one that you mentioned, bad publicity, was a good one. I didn't think about
Mhm.
that people
Yeah.
do that on purpose.
I know I'm trying to think. I have people ask me common questions. Like there's a lot of PR can feel scary for people sometimes, and rightly so, because you can there are rules of the road when it comes to working with the media. There's certain decorum, there's certain ways that we act and speak and how we manage deadlines. There's tools that people might be aware of. Like I had a conversation with someone the other day about something called an embargo, which is where you send the news in advance of when you actually want it to be public and you ask the media to honor it as a confidential piece of information until a certain date. And they were wanting to send an important announcement, but not something that really drove confidentiality for a period of time. And so we had to have a conversation around like, this really isn't a tool that we want to use every time. You know, we want to use it when it's like, okay, reporter that I really know and trust, I would like you to have 2 weeks with this information so that when we're ready to announce, you can go to market on the announcement day rather than having, needing to catch up multiple days afterwards. So, there's things like that that can, if you don't use it wisely, you can make foes rather than friends in the media. So there's things like that where folks don't necessarily understand, and with the proliferation of ChatGPT, which I love ChatGPT, I ask it questions all the time. You might you might ask it a question, it might say like, yeah, sure, do this. But when you're talking to someone like me with 20 years of experience, 22 years of experience, needing to guide you as far as the how it really works so that you don't end up hurting your brand.
You mentioned before about bad press.
Hmm.
How do you manage when there's a crisis like
Hmm.
negative publicity?
Right. Well, first things first, and this is topical. I'm not sure when we're going to air, but this summer with the Coldplay concert and the astronomer CEO being caught with his head of HR, astronomer didn't say anything for a long time, and when they finally did, they had Gwyneth Paltrow do an ad for them, and you know astronomer was quiet for a while, and I kept thinking, where are they? Like there's so many memes going around, there's so many people talking about them. I'm sure their employees and their clients are going like, what is going on? Why, where are y'all? And when you create a vacuum of information, that is when your brand really does suffer. So being able to quickly say something, even if you don't know all the information, and I think some people feel like, and maybe this is a myth, I have to know absolutely all the information before I open my mouth. You can say, we understand that something has happened. We are looking into it. You will hear from us again in X period of time. And then continue to honor that promise as you uncover more information. Because a lot of times you don't know whether it's some force majeure or something really terrible has happened. You're not going to know all the facts right away, but you can still say like, hey, we get it. Something has gone awry. We are looking into it. You'll hear from us again in 2 hours or something like that, so that you can open that line of communication. People know that you're taking it seriously, and then continue diligently to uncover what's going on. keep having information to share and then honor the that timeline and that process so that you can control the narrative. I mean, right now it's like I'm watching CEOs and brands just be torn apart on social media, on LinkedIn, and they're not really part of the discourse. Or if they're saying something, they're saying weird things, or they're like half-baked posts, and there's not a lot of I'm not seeing the authenticity and understanding of the virality of missteps is really amping up right now, and people should be thoughtful of that. People can ruin your business if you're not thinking about how can I really control the narrative, and not in a like control sounds can have a negative connotation. It's being as honest as you can. You don't lie, because that's going to come back to haunt you. People will find out. There are receipts. So like, this is what we know today to be true. We will continue to investigate. We will return with more information at this time.
Uh, Most people know that, most people are aware that media is changing from
Hmm.
traditional media and
Hmm.
online media. So
Hmm.
how is PR adjusting to that?
What a time to be alive, my friend. Well, interestingly enough, PR is having a moment because with the proliferation of AI and AI tools, AI is drawing from earned media first right now. So if you've done your job with having articles about you, being on podcasts, having, like enough third party information that's, consistent and accurate out there about you, AI is going to serve your brand up more quickly than it might another who has nothing or only has blog posts or something like that, on their own media. So right now, people who are working with us are in pretty good shape because we're helping manage their PR realm. So we have articles out there about them. We're doing news releases, and we're responding to pitches and things like that. They're on podcasts. We're also doing blog content, social media content. When all of that, every channel is full of your voice, your brand, consistent messaging, then you are going to be in great shape. Now, that does mean that some media outlets are not getting as many clicks, and so their traffic is declining. Some outlets, I think, are going to close, or more are going to close. So that, we are at a weird flexion point. I'm not sure what's going to happen next. I do hope that more people step into that void and spin up some find a new model for media so it's more profitable for them, because we need reporters. We need that fourth estate for our democracy. But right now in this moment, PR is feeding these AI search engines. So it's almost like pay per click used to be, where you can really almost have a reliable presence if if you are using PR for your business.
For a small business emerging in the market, when is the
Mhm.
proper time to use a PR firm?
That's a great question. So you can begin right away. I mean, starting as you start a business, that's a great time to introduce yourself to the media, talk about your vision for the business. What are you going to offer the market? How are you going to help? Especially if you have a social aspect to your company, like, do you have a cause that you're passionate about, or a certain number of profits going to go to a particular nonprofit or group of nonprofits? So going ahead and saying at that time, here we are, because media covers new stuff. People love new stuff, new restaurants, new retail shops, new service providers. So being able to have a clear vision of who you are right off the bat is great. At that point, you don't necessarily. It can be difficult to keep that going for a while, because you're trying to do your business. You're not necessarily like, oh, what's another great story? What more, what other announcements do I have? Unless you have a lot of funding and you're adding a lot of staff, and you just had the successive line of products or services. It might be a minute before you have something else to share, and that's okay. That's when you kind of flip the switch over to marketing for a while you do build up the business. But anytime there's something that's of interest to the whether your local community or your business community or beyond, don't be shy about sharing that. It just can't be sales focused. It can't be, hey, I'm using you, reporter, to be my marketer. That's not how that works. Your job is to inspire them to write about or share your news and information. It's not a demand.
If someone is starting out and they don't have too much money to invest in PR, what are some tactics or ways or things they could do?
Well, there's a bunch of different ways to work with a provider like me or a colleague where, you can, the fractional model people find very compelling where they're really paying for advice and guidance, and that works well, if you don't have necessarily the funds to have someone do everything for you. So, don't think that, okay, I don't have thousands and thousands of dollars every month to spend on it. I would explore if there's someone who can just guide your hand. But also, going back to what I said at the top of the call is like really spending some time thinking about, okay, who am I? What do we really have to offer? You can reach out to a reporter on your own and, like pick maybe one or two in your area. Whether it's, if you have a business, call the business reporter, just introduce yourself. I mean, they're human beings too, and they're always looking for good stories. I mean, people get covered all the time who don't have representation. So, you can just say like, hey, here's what I'm doing. I'd love to share news with you from time to time if that's all right. And sometimes even but if you don't get a response, that's okay. But anytime you have something interesting to share, just drop them a line and ask them if they'd be interested.
How long does it take like for the ROI, let's say, to get results in regards to
Hmm.
PR?
Well, ROI and PR have a squishy relationship. When we work with clients, that's really one of the first things to ask them is, what does success look like to you? And very rarely does someone say, I need to 10x my investment in you in order for this to work. Because how could you prove that it happened? Even if somebody read your article on your industry publications website and went to your website, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily clicking to buy right then. Especially if you're selling like a $50,000 product or something like that. They may not hire you for a year, but the article was the first thing that introduced you to them, and then maybe you have a super long sales cycle or something. So we really try to help them come up with their own goals, and then and then together decide what are the metrics going to be that you're gauging our success. So if someone, usually it's interesting enough, people are like, I just want more people to know about us. I want business to feel easier. When I go to a networking event and I say my name, I don't want people to be like, huh? We help them figure that out, and then we let them know, okay, yes, that's reasonable, or okay, we need to kind of go back to the drawing board, or you really need to be doing X, Y, and Z on the marketing side so that this rising tide is lifting all the boats. Because when you've got social campaigns, email campaigns, your blog content's going, and you have PR going, and you've got pay-per-click going, with all that working together, it does help amplify your investment, and then make it much stronger because with that cross-channel approach, you're really saturating the market at that point.
You've worked with a lot of clients.
Mhm.
What is one success story that you have in mind that you were really proud of?
Okay. Oh, which of my children do I'm going to pick? Who's my favorite? One that I do love to talk about. I have the privilege of working with a multi-generational manufacturing company in our area. And when the current generation took over as leadership, they hired me and they said, not sure, not sure why we need you, but we feel like we might need you. And I was like, great, let's come up with a strategy together. Let's figure out what this is going to look like. How are we going to communicate? Because they really had direct sales, and that was really it. There was a lot of ad hoc communication. There wasn't necessarily any media relations happening. There was no social media at that time, and so I helped them put together like, what do we want to have happen with this business as you're running it? Some many hundreds of millions of dollar business. And so anyway, working together, one of the priorities we defined, I was like, what are the what are the publications that mean a lot to the people in your industry? And so they listed out a few, and one of them is like the Vogue of their industry. It's they're in the meat industry. It's like a punny name. It's like you Richard probably do not subscribe to it, but the people in their industry love it. It means a lot. Well, we started a PR campaign. We started announcing different things that were happening. We created a cadence of information, and then after a series of announcements, the editor of this magazine reached out. So we want to come visit you. Like, us, little old us. And he's like, yeah, I'm buying a plane ticket. Can I come visit your plants? And we thought, okay, that's, did they mean somebody else? No, they meant us. And then a few minutes later, they were on the cover of their Vogue, their Sports Illustrated, of their industry. And, yeah, I remember it was very exciting. They were very pleased, very happy about that. And then after it happened, one of the leaders looked at me and she was like, "It's amazing what happens when you have a plan." And that has only continued to feed upon itself. The more you do, the more you get. The coverage begets coverage. Like the people get hungry for your story, and then one of the beautiful things that happens is as you are sharing your news and information to your media context that makes sense for your business, they will start to reach out to you like, hey, you keep sending me topics about this manufacturing company. Do you have anything to say about employees and what kind of benefits they're looking for? Like they start to reach out to you, and that's what you really want to have happen. So when news is breaking or they're writing a story, they're like, I'm going to go to this trusted resource who's going to give me great content. They're going to respect my deadlines, and so that's always what we're looking for too.
Last words in regards to public relations.
Mm. Well, I think that if you've been curious about it, now is a really great time to do it. I danced around the ROI question, but there really is a return to be had now, especially with generative search engines feeding off of earned media to supply the results that you're looking for. So when you're talking to ChatGPT, you're plugging something into Perplexity. If you have content on these earned media platforms, you're going to be ranking higher than your customers. And think about it. If you read something in the paper about a business, but then you go to look at a competitor and they've got nothing, they're not in any outlets at all. Which one are you going to pick? You're going to pick the one that has this third party endorsement. They've been in all these publications, so it's always been valuable. Now it's probably a little bit more measurable. And it's happening to me too. I got a call the other day. Someone said, they actually knew the person, but they found me. They found me in Perplexity looking with some certain keywords, like, "Oh, duh, of course, Lauren." Like, "Oh, good, I fed the machine." So it's happening every day. So PR is having a moment. So if you've been thinking about it, now's the time.
Where can people learn more about you and follow you?
Okay. You can find us online and on all of our channels at Kwedar Co. So Kwedar is my main name. It's Kwed, D as in David, AR. So kwedarco.com. That's on all our social channels. And then I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So you're welcome to find me there, send me a connection request, slide into my DMs, ask me a question. And it's Lauren Kwedar Cockerell there. And I'd love to chat.